He had only just buckled his seatbelt when the voice thundered beside him. "You need to move. Now." Heads turned. Conversations froze. The hum of the cabin dimmed into a strange stillness. The man in the first-class aisle seat, a tall, sharply dressed figure with graying temples and commanding calm, slowly raised his eyes. He had a phone to his ear. Didn't speak. Just looked at the person who dared disturb his silence. A uniformed officer, broad-chested and red-faced, pointed at him like he was about to detain a criminal. Behind him stood a blonde flight attendant, arms folded, eyes sharp but amused. The passengers around them tensed. Some craned their necks. Some pulled out phones. One or two whispered, already sensing something viral was unfolding. But the man in the seat didn't flinch. Didn't blink. He slowly took the phone away from his ear and laid it in his lap. "Sir," the officer said again, louder this time. "This seat is not for you." The man raised a brow. "I have a valid ticket. And I'm exactly where I belong." The officer looked to the flight attendant. She stepped forward with a smug little smile. "We believe you may have boarded incorrectly. This seat is typically reserved for our Platinum Elite customers." He tilted his head, gaze calm but sharp. "And before we continue, if you're watching us for the very first time, ELLIOT Stories welcomes you with a warm digital hug. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a moment of mystery, drama, and justice. Drop a comment below. What city are you watching us from? We love seeing our global community light up the comment section. And trust me, this story is going to blow your mind, so stay till the end." The officer stepped in closer, his tone dipping into something colder. "If you don't move, we'll have to escort you off the flight." "On what grounds?" "You're not authorized to be in this section." The man leaned forward just slightly. "Do you treat all your passengers this way? Or just the ones who look like me?" That was when the murmurs started. From row 3, a middle-aged woman whispered something to her husband, who responded with a tight shake of the head. A teenage boy at the back leaned across his aisle and asked someone quietly, "Why him?" But still, the uniformed man held his stance. And so did the woman beside him. The man in the seat sighed and reached for his phone. "I'd like to make a call," he said. "Sir, we're asking you." He raised a finger. Calm. Controlled. Regal. "This will only take a moment." The flight attendant rolled her eyes as the man dialed. Now the air in the cabin had changed. Not fear. Not confusion. Something else. Like anticipation before a storm. He held the phone to his ear and spoke. "Yes. It's me. Flight 316, Seat 1A. Tell them it's begun." The line clicked. The call was over. But the ripple it left was unmistakable. 10 seconds later, the captain's voice buzzed over the intercom, strained and urgent. "Ladies and gentlemen, we ask for your patience. We're experiencing a delay due to a security protocol and need to remain grounded for a few more minutes." Passengers began murmuring louder now. The officer's face twitched. The flight attendant's arms unfolded. "What did you just do?" she asked. The man stood. Every eye followed him as he calmly turned to the officer. "I told them. And now we wait." Outside the plane, ground crew members were scurrying with phones pressed to ears. A black SUV screeched to a stop on the tarmac, and two men in suits sprinted toward the boarding gate. Inside, a ripple of awareness was spreading. Someone whispered, "I think I recognize him." Another said, "Isn't that the guy who owns?" But before anyone could say it aloud, a stern-faced woman in an airport operations jacket entered the cabin. She didn't ask for permission. Didn't stop. Walked straight up the aisle toward the man. She didn't address the flight attendant. Didn't even glance at the officer. She turned to the seated man and bowed slightly. "Mr. Onyekachi, we sincerely apologize for this experience. Please allow us to correct it immediately." The name hit the cabin like a lightning bolt. A few mouths dropped. A few gasps followed. The man nodded but didn't smile. "This is not just about me," he said quietly. "It's about how you treat people you assume don't belong." The woman nodded. Understood. The officer and the flight attendant were suddenly pale. The security man lowered his voice to a near whisper, stammering something about confusion, miscommunication, protocol. But no one was listening anymore. Because now everyone knew. Mr. Onyekachi wasn't just any passenger. He was the CEO of a global tech company that had just finalized a critical partnership with the airline, one that gave his firm executive oversight on several airport security AI systems rolling out next quarter. And now he was standing calmly, watching a company unravel from one biased assumption. But what happened next wasn't what anyone expected. Because this wasn't the climax. Not yet. The captain left the cockpit. 2 airport security agents entered the cabin, not for Mr. Onyekachi, but for someone else. Someone in first class was about to get escorted off. But it wasn't who you think. And that's where we'll pause. Because what happens after this moment changes not just the fate of this flight, but the futures of 2 people forever. The silence was thick now. You could hear seatbelt clicks, whispers traded like secrets, and the humming anxiety of a cabin teetering on the edge of something big. But when the airport security agents began walking down the aisle, it wasn't toward Mr. Onyekachi. It was toward the officer. The bald, broad-chested man who had barked orders just minutes earlier shrank visibly as one of the agents stopped in front of him and said, "Please step outside with us." "What?" he sputtered. "I was just following." "Now." His words died in his throat. Passengers leaned out into the aisle. Someone at the back gasped audibly. He looked at the flight attendant beside him, but she took a subtle step back, just enough to say, "You're on your own now." As he was led down the aisle and off the plane, the murmurs swelled into open voices. "Wait, here's the one being escorted off. Did you see the CEO's face? Man's cooler than the other side of the pillow." Someone whispered, "Power doesn't shout. It just moves pieces." But the story wasn't over yet. Because now, the flight attendant stood alone in the aisle, face composed, but her eyes had lost their spark. Mr. Onyekachi had remained standing, arms crossed, eyes locked on her. She cleared her throat. I didn't mean anything personal, sir." His brow raised slightly. "Oh, I think you did. You just didn't expect consequences." A pause. Then he reached into his pocket and retrieved a crisp white envelope. He handed it to the woman from airport operations and nodded. She opened it, read the contents, then looked at him, stunned. "Are you sure?" "I'm not here to ruin people," he said. "I'm here to fix systems." What was in the envelope? An official directive from the board of the airline's parent company, a surprise inspection request for internal personnel behavior and training records on bias, discrimination, and protocol breach patterns. The CEO hadn't just called in a favor. He'd initiated an entire policy overhaul. But just as you might be thinking this was a corporate flex, it wasn't. Because at that moment, he turned to the passengers, raised his voice just enough to reach all of them, and said, "I've been flying since I was a boy. My father was a pilot. My mother, a teacher. They taught me that dignity is not given to you by a seat number or a suit or a title. Dignity is something you carry, even when it's ignored, tested, or threatened. Today, I didn't stand for myself alone. I stood because someone behind me, maybe row 7, maybe 18, needed to see what calm power looks like." The plane was quiet again. But now, it wasn't out of fear. It was reverence. The young woman in seat 2B wiped a tear. The older man in 3C whispered "Amen" under his breath. And then came the moment that truly stunned everyone. Mr. Onyekachi turned to the flight attendant once more. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Emily." "Emily, you made a mistake today. A big one. But I believe people can learn. I don't want you fired. But I do want you educated. Properly." He turned to the airport operations woman again. "Enroll her in the revised Passenger Dignity and Awareness Program. Full session. Immediate start." Emily blinked, clearly unsure whether to feel grateful or humiliated. I understand." And for the first time, her tone held something new, humility. As Mr. Onyekachi sat back down, the captain returned to the cockpit. Moments later, the engines revved. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain's voice said, "thank you for your patience. We're now clear for takeoff." The flight proceeded. Quiet, smooth, still buzzing with what had just transpired. But the ripples didn't stop there. Within 48 hours, security footage from the plane, along with whispers from insiders, began circulating online. Not because Mr. Onyekachi wanted to go viral, he didn't even speak publicly about it, but because passengers did. A young man from row 12 posted about it on social media with the caption, "Today, I learned how true strength moves silently. And it wears a green tie." Within 24 hours, the hashtag #seat1A trended in 6 countries. The airline released a formal apology. Their CEO personally contacted Mr. Onyekachi. And 3 weeks later, the airline's diversity and bias training was redesigned with input from his company's human ethics division. But for Mr. Onyekachi, none of that was the real reward. Because 3 days after that flight, he received a letter. It was handwritten, sealed in a red envelope, and left at the reception of his company's Lagos office. Inside, it read, "Dear Mr. Onyekachi, I was the teenage girl in row 9. My younger brother and I were flying alone for the first time, and we'd already faced a bad day. But then I saw you. You didn't yell. You didn't fight. You stood tall and calm while everything around you got loud. I want to grow up and handle things like that. Thank you for showing me how to be powerful and kind at the same time. Sincerely, Adana, age 16. He read that letter twice. Then again. Then folded it gently, slipped it into his journal, and smiled. Because that was the reason he stayed calm. Not to go viral. But because someone was always watching. Learning. Even when you don't know it. And that, dear listeners, is the power of presence, poise, and choosing justice over vengeance. In a world where assumptions can fly faster than planes, and judgments are made before boarding passes are checked, we're reminded that how we respond to disrespect defines us far more than how we demand respect. Mr. Onyekachi could have exploded. He could have sued, shamed, or slandered. But instead, he redirected an entire system and uplifted the next generation with quiet grace. Speech balloon moral of the story: never underestimate the power of silent leadership. And never forget, what you carry inside is stronger than what anyone can strip from you. Dizzy, and remember, from all of us here at ELLIOT Stories, you are seen. You are valued. You matter. Whether you're in seat 1A or row 28, carry your dignity like royalty. Because one day, your calm might be someone else's courage. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And hey, tell us your city in the comments. We love shouting out our global family. Until next time, keep your heart brave and your story bold. This is ELLIOT Stories, signing off with love.